Today's topic is framing of issues, and we'll be understanding what the purpose of framing of issues. Why do we need to frame issues at the first place? Why can't we just decide on the dispute in hand? What does issues do which the ordinary conflict cannot? Because conflict तो और है ही, issues ऐसा क्या कर लेते हैं कि वो conflict narrow हो जाती है. So these are the two questions which are very important, and we will understand the purpose of issues and how do we frame it. Uh, कि हम एक्चुअल में दोनों कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स में देखते क्या है कि हम एक परफेक्ट इशू बना सके उन दोनों में से. So today's topics will be, first we'll be going through I'll give you a brief overview of civil procedure. Those who are in criminal law or those who are recent graduates, a little idea of the entire civil procedure, and then we will understand what are issues, what exactly are issues, and what are the purposes of issues, and then we'll understand what are the types of issues. There are basically two types of issues. One is an issue of law and one is an issue of fact, and how do we decide both of them, and how do we frame both of them, and then we'll go on to understand the preliminary issues. Fine. And these preliminary issues are basically the issues of law. But एक issue of law कब preliminary issue बन जाता है? Preliminary का मतलब, the word itself says preliminary means that these issues are to be decided first. Preliminary, these issues are to be decided first, and then the rest of issues will follow. So word itself says that these issues have to be decided first. So now what are those issues that are needed to be decided first? We'll see, and then we will obviously understand the steps which are need which are adopted to determine the issues को निकालने के लिए steps क्या होते हैं कि कैसे आप proceed करते हो. पहले आप क्या पढ़ोगे, क्या दोनों चीजें पढ़ोगे, कौन से pleadings पढ़ोगे, and etc. And then what will be the consequences if a court omits a particular issue. एक issue बनाना ही omit कर देता है या improper issue बना देता है. What will be the consequences in that? And then we'll understand the materials which are required for framing of issues. And ultimately, see if the material is not sufficient. जो material है court के पास वो sufficient नहीं है issue बनाने के लिए. Then what will the court do? Court will examine the parties, and then the court can order production of document, court can order examination of the parties, and on the basis of that examination and production the court can form an issue. So this is a power with the court of examination if the documents are if the material on record is insufficient for framing the issues. तो वो भी देखेंगे. फिर ultimately amendment. Hopefully time permit करे, यहाँ तक तो हम पक्का कवर ही कर लेंगे, hopefully पूरा ही हो जाएगा. Now overview of the civil procedure code. See, now this code, the word used in enactment is code, it is not act. Now what is the difference between an act and a code? See, a code is a compilation of an existing laws. इसका ये मतलब हुआ कि already पहले existing laws थे. What does this code do? This code compiles all the existing laws and it makes them come to one place. एक जगह पर लाता है. So there were existing laws and this code compiles them all. And what is act? Act क्या करता है? Act is a law created out of legislative wisdom. पहले law नहीं था, law create किया गया legislative wisdom से. So now what is the purpose of CPC? So CPC is an act to consolidate. पहला purpose है consolidate करना, सारे जो पहले laws थे उनको consolidate करना. And दूसरा है to amend the laws relating to the procedure of code of civil judicature. So पहले कौन कौन से laws थे? 1859 act था, 1877 act था, 1882 act था. सबको compile करके हमने 1908 CPC बनाया. Fine. And then this act, this civil procedure code, is, from the name itself you can say that this is a procedural law. Now there are two kinds of laws. One is a substantive law and a procedural law. Substantive law basically tells you your rights and liabilities and the enforcement mechanism कि कैसे आप वो right और liability enforce करोगे, वो procedural law बताता है. So civil procedure is the procedural law. It provides for an enforcement mechanism. अब जो sections हैं, this enactment or this code is divided into two parts. First part is order and the second part is sections. Now if you closely examine, there are what is the difference between order and section? if you closely examine the substantive part of the code is section. मतलब एक section बताता है कि आपको if you want to institute a suit, section बताता है कि यार you have to file a plaint. So that is the substantive aspect of it. Now in what form that plaint has to be filed, वो order बताता है. Order बताता है कि आपको plaint एक duplicate form में file होनी चाहिए. Order 4. So जो order है, you can say that that is a more procedural form of the act of the code. और ये जो है ये सब्सटैंटिव एस्पेक्ट पर ज्यादा फोकस है कि ये चीज करनी है, अब कैसे करनी है वो आपको ऑर्डर बताएगा. ठीक है, इंटरलोकेटरी ऑर्डर्स होने चाहिए, कैसे होने चाहिए वो आपको ऑर्डर 39 बताएगा. सो ऐसे सब चीजें दोनों जगह पे, कोई भी चीज जो सेक्शन में है वो आपको ऑर्डर में मिलेगी ही मिलेगी, सम और द अदर वेज. नाउ नाउ लेट अस ओवरव्यू द प्रोसीजर. सी जब भी आप एक सिविल सूट फाइल करते हो, इट इज इंस्टीट्यूटेड बाय फाइलिंग अ प्लेंट. Now that is what section 26 of the CPC says, कि a suit is instituted by filing a plaint. Now this plaint has to be filed in duplicate, means you have to file 2 copies of the plaint. Fine. और ये provided है order 4 rule 1 में. अब जैसे ही आप plaint file करते हो, the number of suit, the suit is numbered. Now suit is numbered by reader, and the reader will examine the valuation of the suit. Reader will raise other office objections कि यार ये photocopy जो आपने attach की है ये ठीक नहीं है, it's the type formed is not proper, the annexes जो आपने exhibits जो attach किए हैं उनमें ये fault है वगैरह वगैरह. A lot of office objections are raised. In most jurisdictions you will have to clear these office objections in 7 days. ये सब जगह नहीं होता, it differs from state to state. कुछ जगह पे ज्यादा दिन भी दिए जाते हैं, कुछ जगह पे कम दिन भी दिए जाते हैं, but in most jurisdictions you will have to clear these office objections within 7 days. Now after clearing this office objections, then the court will decide whether we are to reject this application or accept this application. Now this rejection of we are to reject this plaint or accept this plaint. This concept of rejection of plaint is provided in order 7 rule 11. Order 7 rule 11 says that if the plaint does not disclose the cause of action, it has to be rejected. And order 7 rule 11 also says that if the plaint is insufficiently stamped, it has to be rejected. It also says that if it is insufficiently there is insufficient court fees is attached to it, it has to be rejected. If it is barred by law, it has to be rejected. And if it is not filed in duplicate, it has to be rejected. And if it does not comply with order 7 rule 9, with order 7 rule 9, it has to be rejected. These are the grounds which order 7 rule 11 provides, that in certain cases the plaint may be rejected. In fact, plaint shall be rejected. That is what the order says. In these cases, the plaint shall be rejected. Now, assuming the plaint is not rejected, your plaint is accepted. It does not fall under any of these grounds, and it is accepted. Then what happens? Then the court will summon. Then an order of issue of summon will be passed, and on that order you will have to pay the process fee. आप जैसे order of issue of summon pass होता है, आपको process fee pay करनी पड़ेगी, and within 7 days ये process fee आपको pay करनी पड़ेगी. अगर आपने ये process fee नहीं pay की, so it will be a ground for rejection of plaint again, and it can also be a ground for dismissal of suit. 2 ground हो सकते हैं. तो जैसे ही order of issue of summons हुआ, आपको process fee pay करनी पड़ेगी. जैसे ही आपने process fee pay करी, summons is served upon the defendant. The moment summons is served upon the defendant, let us assume that he appears. Now he appears, so the court will ask him to file a WS. Now he will have to file this WS within 30 days. Up 30 days of what? 30 days of delivery of summon, when he received the summon. So within 30 days of receiving the summon, he will have to file the WS, and this period can extend to 90 days. ये order 8 rule 1 में. फिर जैसे ही उसने WS फाइल किया, तब आपकी होगी फर्स्ट हियरिंग. Now this is very important for us, and this is where the entire thing happens, which is the framing of issues. Now in first hearing, the court will examine the pleading. First, the court will read both the pleading कि plaintiff क्या मांग रहा है, defendant क्या deny कर रहा है, and then ultimately the court will seek admissions and denials from both the party. What are you admitting and what are you denying? दोनों parties के admissions और denials seek करेगा, and then the court will examine both the parties. ठीक है, अब ये तीनों हो गए चीजें, तो कोर्ट एक क्वेश्चन पूछेगा अपने आपसे ही कि वेदर दिस केस इज फिट फॉर अल्टरनेट डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन. क्या ये केस फिट है अल्टरनेट डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन के लिए? इफ द आंसर इज यस, then the court can send this to arbitration or say conciliation or say judicial settlement or mediation. Judicial settlement or mediation in लोक अदालत और एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. तो ये कर सकता है अगर उसे लगे कि दिस केस इज अ फिट केस फॉर एडीआर. if he thinks that this is not the fit case for ADR, or if ADR fails, ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि ADR fail हो जाए, तो ADR fail हो गया या उसको लगता है कि यार ये fit case नहीं है इसका alternate dispute resolution का, then the court will move on to settle the issues. अब यहाँ पर जो basis होगा settlement का, that will be this first hearing. ये जो first hearing पे हमने examine किया pleading, हमने admissions and denials किए, ये जो है ना, ये होगा basis framing of issues का, settlement of issues का. अब before settling the issues, अब यहाँ पर कहीं पर in practice what will the court do? The court can ask you for draft issues, both the parties. Court can say that you guys give me the draft issues and on the basis of those draft issues I will settle the issues. कि आप लोग मुझे एक draft issues दे दो तो मैं देख सकूं कि issues क्या frame करने हैं. See, ideally act or the court says that it is the duty of the court to frame the settlement of issues. But that does not mean that the pleaders cannot participate in it. And pleaders, in fact, in most cases, pleaders participate in the exercise of framing of issues. So इसलिए हम यहाँ पर draft issues submit करते हैं. And फिर ultimately the court settles issues. अब कोर्ट जब सेटल करता है इश्यूज, कोर्ट एक चीज हमेशा ध्यान में रखता है कि जो भी इशू सेटल्ड है उन दोनों चीजों में द पार्टीज आर एट वेरिएंस. When I say at variance, I say that A claims for a particular relief. A claims that I want this property. A claims that this property belongs to me. And B denies the same. Now here both are at variance. दोनों अलग अलग हैं. एक एडमिट कर एक असर्ट कर रहा है और दूसरा डिनाई कर रहा है. सो बोथ पार्टीज आर एट वेरिएंस. सो दैट इज द रीजन. अब यहाँ पर एक डिस्प्यूट दिख रहा है हमें, तो हम उसका इशू बनाएंगे. इशू ऐसा रहेगा कि वेदर ए इज इंटाइटल्ड टू दिस प्रॉपर्टी, वेदर ए इज इंटाइटल्ड टू दिस प्रॉपर्टी. ठीक है, तो ऐसा इशू बनाएंगे और उस इशू के बेसिस पे, अब इशूज एक ही नहीं रहेगा, बहुत सारे होते हैं, तो उस इशू के बेसिस पे ट्रायल होता है. अब जब आप एविडेंस लीड करते हो, आप एविडेंस इस पर्टिकुलर इशू के लिए लीड कर रहे हो, और जो जजमेंट कोर्ट प्रोनाउंस करता है वो इस इशू के बेसिस पे प्रोनाउंस करता है. सो इनफैक्ट अ जजमेंट इज प्रोनाउंस्ड ऑन ऑल द इश्यूज. हर इशू के ऊपर एक एक जजमेंट प्रोनाउंस होता है. एवरी इशू को डिसाइड करना पड़ता है कोर्ट को. एंड देन आफ्टर दैट अ जजमेंट इज पास्ड. ट्रायल जैसे खत्म होता है, आपका जजमेंट पास हो जाती है अल्टीमेटली. एंड देन the interesting thing with civil procedure is it does not end here. And the picture अभी बाकी है वाला सीन आ जाता है. आपको जजमेंट मिल गई तो you need not get very happy because you will have to execute it. If you have an order or a decree, you need not get very happy because ultimately आपको अभी सिर्फ एक रिटन कागज मिला है जिसमें बोल रहा है कि ये आपका राइट है, बट अभी आपको वो प्रिक्योर करना है. एंड फॉर दैट यू विल हैव टू एग्जीक्यूट दिस राइट. एंड एग्जीक्यूशन के लिए यू विल हैव टू फाइल अ डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशन. once you filed once the execution proceedings ends, for example someone appeals, and after the appealing, the for example the suit was between A versus B. The court says that A is entitled to this particular property, और ultimately B is dispossessed. B का possession हट जाता है. कोर्ट बोलता है ए इंटाइटल्ड है, तो बी घर छोड़ के चला जाता है जिस घर के बारे में डिस्प्यूट था. तो A comes into the possession of this house and B files an appeal, and in appeal the court decides no, B is entitled. Now here you will obviously seek restitution. जितना time B उस property के possession में नहीं था, उसके लिए he should get something. So if the order is reversed or if the decree is reversed, then B can file for restitution. ये होता है after math of everything, appeal और ये सब after math scenario होता है. So this is the brief uh, procedure or civil procedure. Any doubts with regarding to this? We'll move on to issues then. Now see, after a suit has been instituted, it clears all the stages. Fine. Now, when it clears all the stages, then it comes for hearing. अब hearing दो तरह की हो सकती है. The first is the first hearing, पहली hearing, and the subsequent hearings. Now, ideally, अगर आप पहली बार कभी भी CPC पढ़ोगे, खोल के देखोगे ना, so the court strives, or the code strives to do everything on day one. कोड बोलता है सब कुछ मैं पहले दिन करूंगा, बट प्रैक्टिकली ऐसा होता नहीं है. सो फर्स्ट हियरिंग में क्या होता है? कोर्ट सेज दैट इन फर्स्ट हियरिंग यू विल examine all the parties and you will record their admissions and denials, whatever they are admitting and denying, and then on the basis of this first hearing you will settle issues. ठीक है? And in the subsequent hearings, जो बाद में आ रही हैं hearings, आप फिर evidence लोगे parties का. The first stage of the trial is framing of issues, at which the scope of the trial is determined by laying a path. So here you are laying a path on which the trial should proceed, excluding departures and diversions. So here you are laying down a path. You are creating an issue, the main issue, and you are saying that okay, the trial should proceed on this particular issue, और कोई चीज नहीं आनी चाहिए. The trial should proceed only on this issue. Fine. Or various जितने भी issues आपने frame किए हैं. So you are actually laying down a path and you are excluding all the departures or diversions. Now the question comes, what are these issues? See, these issues, if you go by the dictionary, you can say that these are point of questions, an important subject of debate, disagreement, and discussion or an argument for the purpose of it. Now, when do they arise? That is an important question. Now, ये तो हमें पता है, English language tells us कि यार point of question हो गए, ये important subject matter है, सबसे important crucial debate है. अब सवाल ये था, ये उठते कैसे हैं? How do they arise? They arise when a material proposition of fact or law is affirmed by one party. So one party is affirming it by one party and it is denied by the other, and the other party is denying it. Now this is what rule 1 says. So here is when the variance occurs. एक पार्टी अफर्म कर रही है, दूसरी डिनाई कर रही है, तो आप सवाल उठाओगे कि यार ये what is the, for example, A says that this is my property, B says no, this is not your property. Now one party is affirming, the other is denying, so you will frame an issue whether this property belongs to A. Fine. Now rule 1 sub rule 2 says that see, these material propositions are those of law and fact. अब इस material proposition में they show a right to sue. अगर प्लेंटिव कर रहा है तो वो राइट टू सू बताएगा, और अगर डिफेंस कर रहा है तो डिफेंडेंट एक डिफेंस कॉन्स्टिट्यूट करेगा. फॉर एग्जांपल, ए सेज दैट me and B entered into a contract and B has breached this contract and therefore I am filing this suit for breach of contract. A ये बोल रहा है और A approaches the court. Now B बोल रहा है कि no, this contract which I entered with A was entered out of undue influence. ये contract undue influence से procure किया गया था. So here he has constituted a defense. So यहाँ पर एक right to sue आ गया और यहाँ पर एक valid defense आ गया. So ये दोनों भी material prepositions है. So इन दोनों के basis पे आप एक issue बना सकते हो. Now the issues that are raised, ये सबसे important point है, that the issues that are raised that must be germane to the determination of the case. जो भी issues आप raise कर रहे हो वो ultimately case को decide करने में result होने चाहिए. They should not be vague pleas by the parties. They cannot form an issue. अब कुछ वेग प्लीज होते हैं, वो इश्यूज नहीं फॉर्म कर सकते. इवन जो सपोर्टिंग फैक्ट्स होते हैं पार्टीज के, दैट कैन नॉट बी एन इशू. The issue will be the main element which ultimately results into the determination of the case. Now the duty of issues is on court. Ideally तो duty है court के पास issues frame करने की. But this responsibility is shared by counsels appearing for either party. जो counsels दोनों भी party से appear कर रहे हैं, they will have to uh, if the court asks for, they will have to send their draft issues and accordingly the court can frame issues. Now हर जो material proposition है, every material proposition will form a distinct issue. अब ये मैं मटेरियल प्रपोजिशन बोल रहा हूँ, मैं हर कंटेंशन नहीं बोल रहा. अब डिफरेंस होती है इसमें, क्योंकि आप सपोज एक प्लीडिंग आपने देखी होगी, सपोज ये प्लेंट है और इसमें फर्स्ट यहाँ से फर्स्ट टू में तो वो डिस्क्रिप्शन बताता है, यहाँ से कॉज ऑफ एक्शन अराइज होता है. अब ये कॉज ऑफ एक्शन डब्ल्यूएस में अपने डिफेंडेंट ने डिनाई कर दिया. ना जैसे ये कॉज ऑफ एक्शन डिनाई कर दिया, कॉज ऑफ एक्शन इज अ मटेरियल प्रपोजिशन, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एलिमेंट है, राइट? और इसने डिनाई किया कॉज ऑफ एक्शन, सो दिस विल बी एन इशू फॉर श्योर. बट कोई वेग चीज यहाँ पर प्लेंटिफ ने मेंटेन की है, मेंशन की है, विच इज अननेसेसरी फॉर डिटरमाइनिंग द इशू, एंड डब्ल्यूएस में डिफेंडेंट उसको भी डिनाई कर रहा है. विल यू मेक दिस एन इशू? द आंसर इज नो, बिकॉज दिस प्रपोजिशन इज नॉट मटीरियल इन इटसेल्फ. एक प्रपोजिशन मटीरियल होनी चाहिए एक इशू को डिटरमाइन, और मटीरियल इतनी होनी चाहिए कि इट हेल्प्स इन डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ द केस. इररेलेवेंट पॉइंट पे आप इशू नहीं बनाओगे. मैं कुछ एग्जांपल्स दूंगा आपको आगे इश्यूज के, देन यू विल अंडरस्टैंड अ लिटिल बेटर. नाउ एट द फर्स्ट हियरिंग, अब कोर्ट कैसे क्या क्या चीज कंसिडर करेगा इश्यूज बनाने के लिए. सो सब रूल 5 सेज दैट एट द फर्स्ट हियरिंग द कोर्ट शैल फर्स्ट रीड प्लेंट एंड डब्ल्यूएस. तो प्लेंट और डब्ल्यूएस को पढ़ेगा और उसमें वेरिएंस देखेगा कि भाई इसमें ये क्या मांग रहा है और ये क्या डिनाई कर रहा है. एंड देन द कोर्ट विल एग्जामिन अंडर ऑर्डर 10 रूल 2, जिसको हम बोलते हैं एडमिशन एंड डिनाइल्स वाला एग्जामिनेशन. ठीक है, तो पहले उसने प्लेंट और डब्ल्यूएस पढ़ी, फिर उसने एग्जामिन किया ऑर्डर 10 रूल 2 में, एंड देन द कोर्ट हर्ड पार्टीज एंड द प्लीडर्स, एंड देन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दैट द court came to an conclusion that so and so material prepositions are at variance, and then the court shall proceed to frame and record the issues on which the right decision of the case appears to depend. So पहले देखेगा WS और plaint, फिर examination under order 10 rule 2, and then the court will hear both the parties for the brief period of time. वो first hearing में होगा, and the court will then examine whether these parties are at variance, and जिस points पर वो variance है, जिस material proposition पर variance है, the court will frame issues for the same. And then अब ये variance, this is a very important term. When I say variance means they are in difference with each other. Now for example, in plaint, the plaintiff says that defendant entered into an agreement to sell with plaintiff for a property situated in Mumbai. अब ये plaintiff का contention है. This is one form of it. And then in written statement, the defendant denies that any agreement for sale with plaintiff for the property situated in Mumbai was entered by defendant. अब यहाँ पर उसने एक चीज assert की कि यार मेरा और तेरा agreement हुआ है ये property के लिए, and उसको deny किया डिफेंडेंट ने कि नो, देयर इज नो एग्रीमेंट बिटवीन अस. अब इसमें जो मेन इशू, अब इसमें इशू बनेगा whether there exists an contract of sale between plaintiff and defendant for the property situated in Mumbai. अब प्रपोजिशन मटेरियल है, अगर इसे सूट फाइल करना है तो ये तो डिसाइड करना पड़ेगा कि एक्चुअली कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इंटर हुआ था या नहीं. सो प्रपोजिशन भी मटेरियल है, और it will lead to determination of the case. So that is the reason, and it is the proposition is also in variance. So that is the reason this is a valid issue. Now, what is the importance of this stage of issue framing? Why do you need? Why can't you just decide from the conflict itself? Have a brief movement and take all the contention, and contentions के basis के आप conflict के basis पे ही आप एक decision decide कर दो. Why do you need to separately frame issues, and on the basis of those issues you are deciding a case? So see, the scope of trial is determined by laying a path on which the trial should proceed, excluding the diversion. So issues का काम क्या होता है? एक रास्ता दिखाना. वो एक रास्ता दिखाते हैं और उस बेसिस पे सारे एविडेंसेस आप लेते हो. और इससे क्या होता है? डाइवर्जन और डिपार्चर्स फ्रॉम द ओरिजिनल डिस्प्यूट है ना, वो मिनिमाइज हो जाती है. सो इससे क्या होता है? रियल डिस्प्यूट बिटवीन द पार्टीज इज डिटरमाइंड. द एरिया ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट दैट इज नैरोड. अब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आपका छोटा हो गया, आपने सारी वेग चीजें हटा दी जो भी प्लेन्स में थी और डब्ल्यूएस में थी, आपकी कॉन्सेप्ट नैरो हो गया. And the concave mirror held by the court reflecting the pleading of parties pinpoints into the issue, the disputes on which the two sides differ. अब आप उसी चीज पर फोकस कर रहे हो जहां पर दोनों साइड डिफर करती हैं. आपने वो भी चीजें एक्सक्लूड कर दी जिसमें एडमिट कर रहे हैं दोनों पार्टीज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ए इज फाइलिंग अ सूट अगेंस्ट बी. फाइन. एंड द फर्स्ट थिंग, उसका कॉज ऑफ एक्शन क्या है? हमेशा जब भी आप इशू फ्रेम करोगे, द फर्स्ट थिंग यू विल हैव टू कीप इन माइंड वाज इट व्हाट इज द कॉज ऑफ एक्शन. नाउ द मीनिंग ऑफ कॉज ऑफ एक्शन, सी द व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ कॉज ऑफ एक्शन. एक एक्शन ले रहे हो आप विच इज फाइलिंग ऑफ सूट, उसका कॉज क्या है? आप वो एक्शन क्यों ले रहे हो? सो एक्शन, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू आर, if you are filing a suit of breach of contract, you are filing because you have a right, existence of a right, and this right has been breached. अब ये right आपको कहां से आया, कैसे एग्जिस्ट हुआ? बिकॉज ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. एंड ब्रीच कैसे हुआ? बिकॉज इसने कोई ऑब्लिगेशन फुलफिल नहीं किया होगा. नाउ दिस इज व्हाट द कॉज ऑफ एक्शन इज. अब कॉज ऑफ एक्शन डिफर, अब कितना ये कॉज ऑफ एक्शन से डिफर कर रहा है? पहले तो जैसे ही आप कॉज ऑफ एक्शन अपने प्लेन में ले डाउन करते हो, आप पहले पहले बताते हो कि मैं इसके साथ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में इंटर हुआ था एंड फिर ब्रीच हो गया. अब he admits to the fact that you guys entered into a contract. So when he admits this fact, तो you guys are not in variance anymore. आप कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को लेकर वेरायंस में नहीं हो. सो ये इशू नहीं बनेगा कि वेदर देयर इज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बिटवीन ए एंड बी. हाँ, बट ही डिनाइज दैट ही ब्रीच्ड द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. वो मना कर रहा है कि उसने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ब्रीच किया. तो हाँ, ये इशू जरूर रहेगा कि वेदर बी ब्रीच्ड द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. बट ये पार्ट जो सिग्निफिकेंट पोर्शन है वो हट जाएगा. तो अभी इस केस में ए का काम थोड़ा हल्का हो गया. अब ए को ये नहीं प्रूव करना पड़ेगा एट द फर्स्ट इंस्टेंस कि यार एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एग्जिस्ट करता था और ऐसे ऐसे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है. उसका काम हल्का हो गया. अभी उसे सिर्फ ब्रीच प्रूफ करनी है. नाउ सी, द करेक्ट डिसीजन ऑफ सिविल लिटिगेशन लार्जली डिपेंड्स अपॉन करेक्ट फ्रेमिंग ऑफ इश्यूज, करेक्टली डिटरमाइनिंग द रियल पॉइंट्स ऑफ कंट्रोवर्सीज व्हिच इज नीडेड टू बी डिसाइडेड. जो पूरा बेसिस है सिविल लिटिगेशन का, वो हमेशा डिपेंड करता है करेक्ट फ्रेमिंग ऑफ इश्यूज. उससे ही रियल पॉइंट्स ऑफ कंट्रोवर्सीज आपको पता चलती हैं. Now see, let's move on to type of issues. There are basically two types of issues. The first is issue of fact and the other is issue of law. Now in issue of law, you need not, issue of law में आपका जो law से ही सारे matters issue decide हो सकता है, primarily laws के basis पे. In issue of fact, you will have to prove certain things. You will have to establish certain things by leading evidence. अब यहाँ पर evidence बहुत बड़ा role play करता है. And then there is third kind of issues, which is अब order 14 rule 14 यही दो बताते हैं, but actually there are third kind of issues, which is mixed issues of facts and laws. अब वैसे तो ये issue of law है, but कुछ इनमें elements हैं जो factual in nature हैं, and for that you will have to lead evidence. Now the moment you have to lead evidence, it becomes a mixed issue of fact and law. Now अब क्या होता है? order order 14 rule 2 says that, see, firstly it says, this is very important, and this is where we'll understand what exactly preliminary issues are. So order 14 rule 2 says that notwithstanding that a case may be disposed of on a preliminary issue, the court shall, subject to the provision of sub rule. अब ये यहाँ पर notwithstanding लिखा है, meaning that it is overriding everything which is mentioned in the code. सारी चीजें override कर रहा है और बोल रहा है कि notwithstanding that a case may be disposed of on a preliminary issue, the court shall. subject to the provisions of subrule 2, subject to the provisions of subrule 2, pronounce judgment on all issues. So ये बोल रहे हैं कि the court shall pronounce judgment on all issues. सारे इश्यूज पर जजमेंट कोर्ट को प्रोनाउंस कर दिए हैं, इंक्लूडिंग प्रिलिमिनरी इशू। भले ही प्रिलिमिनरी इशू में आपका केस डिसमिस होता है फिर भी, बट दिस रूल इज सब्जेक्ट टू सब रूल 2. अब सब रूल 2 says that where issues both of law and fact arise in the same suit, the court is of the opinion that any part thereof may be disposed of on an issue of law only. It may try that issue first if that issue relates to jurisdiction bar created, and for that purpose if it thinks it may postpone the settlement of issues until after the issue has been determined and may deal with the suit accordingly. Quite a mouthful, and what does it exactly wants to say? Now here it wants sub rule 2 wants to say, rule 2 sub rule 2 wants to say that, see, if there is issue of law and fact involved in one particular suit, then the court has the discretion to first decide the suit on the issue of law and postpone other issues of fact. So कोर्ट के ऊपर डिस्क्रिशन है कि जो इशू ऑफ फैक्ट है वो बाद में पोस्टपोन कर सकता है, कि वो बाद में डिसाइड करे, और पहले इशू ऑफ लॉ पे ही फोकस करे, पहले इशू ऑफ लॉ पे ही फोकस करे. अब ये जो इश्यूज हैं इनको हम बोलते हैं प्रिलिमिनरी इश्यूज. These issues are decided prior to the issue of fact, and these issues are so essential that they can dispose of the suit itself if decided in an appropriate manner. They can dispose of the suit itself. अब ये कौन कौन से होते हैं? They can be the matters relating to jurisdiction of a court. They can be a bar of suit created by law. Bar of suit created by law. For example, ये court के पास jurisdiction नहीं था, but you filed a suit. For example, NCLT had the jurisdiction. So this is the bar of suit created by law. So that is the reason this will be a preliminary issue, जो पहले decide होगा. Now see, there appears to be an apparent conflict, but in actuality अगर आप दोनों rule 1 और rule 2, sub rule 1 और sub rule 2 पढ़ोगे तो there is an harmony, और harmony ये word से है. वैसे तो यहाँ पर लिखा है notwithstanding that a case may be disposed on preliminary issue, कि override कर रहा है सबको और बोल रहा है कि यार कोर्ट को हर इशू के ऊपर अपना जजमेंट प्रोनाउंस करना है. एंड सब रूल 2 में बोल रहा है कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, कोर्ट हैज द डिस्क्रिशन टू पोस्टपोन. बट if you focus on sub rule 1, it is subject to the provision of sub rule 2. So the court has the discretion to postpone other issues, और पहले सिर्फ preliminary issue decide कर सकता है. अब वो कैसे होता है? अब for example, see, a gist of what we have read, it says that order 14 rule 1 makes it obligatory for the court to pronounce issues on all pronounce judgment on all issues. वो एक ऑब्लिगेशन बनाता है कि कोर्ट को सारे इश्यूज पे जजमेंट देनी है, बट इट इज सब्जेक्ट टू सब रूल 2. बट वो सब रूल 2 के सब्जेक्ट से मतलब प्रतिबंध है सब रूल 2 से, which gives a discretion to the court to frame issue of law only if it relates to jurisdiction or a bar of institution of the suit itself. अब यहाँ पर इंटेंशन क्या होगा लेजिस्लेचर का? अब इंटेंशन ये है कि वो चाहते थे कि सूट्स जल्दी एक्सपीडिशियसली डिस्पोज हो. तो इसलिए आपने डिस्क्रिशन दे दिया है कोर्ट को कि यार अगर आपको लग रहा है कि एक प्रिलिमिनरी इशू पे कोर्ट एक सूट डिस्पोज हो सकता है, तो आप वो प्रिलिमिनरी इश्यूज पहले डिसाइड कर लो और बाकी सारे पोस्टपोन कर लो. अब सवाल उठता है कि ये प्रिलिमिनरी इश्यूज हैं क्या? सी, these preliminary issues are issues of law only. ठीक है, issues of law only, and they are not mixed issues of facts and law. जहां पर where various factual questions, अब जहां पर आपको एविडेंस लीड करने की जरूरत पड़े वो इशू ऑफ फैक्ट है, और जहां पर सिर्फ आपको लॉ रेफर करने की जरूरत पड़े वो है इशू ऑफ लॉ. सो अगर वो इशू ऑफ लॉ है तो वो एक प्रिलिमिनरी इशू हो सकता है. अब प्रिलिमिनरी इशू बनने के दो रिक्वायरमेंट है. पहला है, एक तो इशू ऑफ लॉ होना चाहिए, एंड दूसरी चीज है इट शुड डिस्पोज ऑफ द सूट. सो इट शुड बी अ इशू ऑफ लॉ एंड इट शुड बी केपेबल ऑफ डिस्पोजिंग ऑफ द सूट. अब इशू ऑफ लॉ वो इशू है जिसके लिए एविडेंस आप देने की जरूरत नहीं है, आप लॉ पढ़ के ही क्लियरली आप इशू एक डिसाइड कर सकते हो. ठीक है. अब कुछ लिमिटेशन के इश्यूज हैं और क्वेश्चंस के इश्यूज हैं, कुछ कुछ जुरिस्डिक्शन के इश्यूज हैं, सारे जुरिस्डिक्शन के इश्यूज प्रिलिमिनरी नहीं हो सकते, ये समझ लो. नॉट ऑल क्वेश्चंस ऑफ जुरिस्डिक्शंस कैन बी प्रिलिमिनरी इश्यूज. The reason being in some questions of jurisdictions you have to lead evidence. Fine. ठीक है. For example, where there is a territorial jurisdiction, अब A ने फाइल किया B के अगेंस्ट सूट और B बोलता है कि दिस प्लेस डज नॉट हैव टेरिटोरियल jurisdiction and please decide the same as a preliminary issue. B बोलता है. Now court here says that I cannot decide it as preliminary issues because it is a partnership firm and you have to now you have to establish that whether it existed at this place or not. Now this is a purely mixed question of fact or law because आपको prove करना पड़ेगा कि ये partnership firm actually इस जगह पे है या नहीं. So it could not be settled without entering into evidence adduced by the parties. So the question of jurisdiction of this jurisdiction, इस case में the question of jurisdiction could not be decided as a preliminary issue. Now ऐसे ही case में in matrimonial matters जहां पर सबसे मेन डिस्प्यूट हो चैलेंज जहां पर वाइफ यूजुअली चैलेंज करती है कोर्ट का jurisdiction and she says that the parties did not reside together at this place. Now this also has to be proved by leading evidence. So अब यहाँ पे evidence involve हो गया, so even this is not a preliminary issue because ये हो गया mixed issue of law and fact. Now a few examples of preliminary issues, certain preliminary issues. For example, case relating to jurisdiction. अगर डिफेंडेंट प्रिलिमिनरी ऑब्जेक्शन रेज करता है कि दिस कोर्ट हैज नो जुरिसडिक्शन इन इज डब्ल्यूएस and the suit of the plaintiff is not within the jurisdiction of this court, then the court can frame such an issue whether the suit of the plaintiff is out of the jurisdiction of the court. ये होता है preliminary issue. अब दूसरा होता है अब thing with jurisdiction is that there is something known as presumption of jurisdiction. In every case what happens, the court presumes that it has jurisdiction until that presumption is rebutted. So वो rebuttal का जो burden है ना, जो onus है ideally, that is on the defendant. Defendant को prove करना पड़ेगा कि क्यों इस कोर्ट के पास jurisdiction नहीं है. So start करता है कोर्ट presumption से कि यार मेरे पास for example A approaches the court to file a suit. So court will start that it has jurisdiction unless that presumption is not unless that presumption is rebutted by the defendant, which is the B. अब ये held हुआ था इस केस में Abdul Ghafoor versus State of Uttarakhand 2008, wherein the court held that every civil court has an inherent jurisdiction upon the entire civil dispute. Whenever the plaint is filed by the plaintiff, the court will always proceed with the presumption that it has the jurisdiction in the court. It is not for the plaintiff to prove the existence of jurisdiction, and he simply has to plead that the court has jurisdiction. अब plaintiff को ये prove नहीं करना पड़ेगा कि court के पास jurisdiction है. The plaintiff just has to plead that the court has jurisdiction, and it is for the defendant to raise that this issue of jurisdiction as a preliminary objection and to prove that in court. अब defendant के ऊपर है कि भाई ये court के पास jurisdiction नहीं है and ये establish करना कि actually this court के पास jurisdiction नहीं है. अब दूसरा जो बहुत common आप देखते होगे preliminary issue raise होता है वो होता है bar of limitation. For example, a suit का limitation period 3 years था. And then what happens, you file a suit after 3 years, file here somewhere. Now this will be barred by limitation, and the first issue will be, now this bar has to be raised by the defendant, and the first issue will be whether the suit of the plaintiff is barred by limitation. Fine. And then comes res judicata. A res judicata is when a person is filing a suit of same matter in issue which were directly and substantially in matter in issue in the former suit. जो पिछले सूट में सेम मैटर इन इशू था वो सेम मैटर इन इशू इस नए सूट में रेस कर रहा है. दिस इज द फॉर्मर सूट. इस फॉर्मर सूट में भाई साहब ने सेम मैटर इन इशू रेस किया था और कोर्ट ने इसे डिसमिस कर दिया था, डिसाइड कर दिया था, हर्ड एंड फाइनली डिसाइड कर दिया था. एंड देन दिस फेलो कम्स अगेन इन दिस न्यू सूट. सब्सिक्वेंट सूट में यही सेम मैटर इन इशू रेस करके आता है. अब here the defendant questions the same, defendant objects the same, and ultimately issue is uh, crafted, which is whether the suit of the plaintiff is barred by res judicata होगा यहाँ limitation नहीं, barred by res judicata. ठीक है. Now then comes an issue relating to preliminary issue relating to the court fees, whether the plaintiff has paid an improper court fees rendering the suit not maintainable. Now if you want to understand the laws relating to court fees, you can and if you want to frame this issue in a better manner, you can obviously refer to section 7 schedule 1 and 2 of court fees act 1870. And then comes order to rule 2, the bar of order to rule 2. Order to rule 2 is a bar wherein what happens that, for instance, in the former suit, plaintiff has omitted one relief. प्लेंटिफ के पास सारे रिलीफ एक कॉज ऑफ एक्शन से अराइज हो रहे थे. फॉर एग्जांपल 4 रिलीफ प्लेंटिफ के पास एक कॉज ऑफ एक्शन से अराइज हो रहे हैं. ये कॉज ऑफ एक्शन है और प्लेंटिफ के पास 4 रिलीफ अराइज हो रहे हैं. अब प्लेंटिफ फॉर्मर सूट में सिर्फ 2 रिलीफ क्लेम करता है, एंड देन ही फाइल्स अ सब्सिक्वेंट सूट फॉर क्लेमिंग द अदर 2 reliefs. Now the court will bar this suit. This will be barred because order to rule 2 says that all the reliefs arising from the same cause of action have to be claimed in one suit. अब इसका एग्जांपल, परफेक्ट एग्जांपल है कि फॉर एग्जांपल A is filing a suit. A is filing a suit for arrears of rent. Arrears of rent के लिए सूट फाइल कर रहा है, एंड B ने रेंट 2007 का भी नहीं दिया, 2008 का भी नहीं दिया, 2009 का भी नहीं दिया. ठीक है, सेम कॉज ऑफ एक्शन से 3 रिलीफ अराइज हो रहे हैं. ठीक है, 3 रिलीफ अराइज हो रहे हैं. ए फाइल करता है सूट कोर्ट में और सिर्फ क्लेम करता है 2008 और 9 का रेंट, एंड फिर दूसरा सूट फाइल करता है सब्सिक्वेंट सूट 2007 के रेंट के लिए. Now this suit of 2007 for 2007 rent will be barred by order to rule 2. ठीक है, और ऐसे केस में आइडियली ऐसे इश्यूज बनाए जाएंगे whether the plaintiff was entitled to the claim the present suit in the former suit. क्या प्लेंटिफ अभी का जो ये प्रेजेंट रिलीफ है वो फॉर्मर सूट में क्लेम कर सकता था, एंड इट वाज रिलिंक्विश्ड विदाउट द परमिशन ऑफ द कोर्ट. दिस यू विल बेटर अंडरस्टैंड वंस यू रीड ऑर्डर टू रूल. एंड देन let us see what steps are involved in framing the issues. Now see, there are 3 steps involved to frame an issue. Now the first step in this is to read the pleadings of the plaintiff and defendant thoroughly. You will have to focus on the plaintiffs thoroughly. ठीक है, and then you will have to find out the proposition of law or fact which is asserted by the plaintiff and denied by the defendant, or which is or vice versa. So आपको फिर देखना पड़ेगा कि क्या assertion एक पार्टी ने किया और क्या deny किया है. अब these propositions you'll have to keep in mind that these propositions are not mere propositions. These propositions have to be material in nature. When I say material in nature, they have to have some effect on the decision of the case. जो ultimate decision है उस पर कुछ तो भी असर होना चाहिए इनका. Now this step 2 is the most important step. So इसमें आप क्या करोगे? The proposition of law or fact which the plaintiff asserts and the defendant denies, or which the defendant asserts and the plaintiff denies, is the subject matter of issue. Assertion by one and denial by the other is the basis of issue framing. If there is only assertion by one party but no denial, अब यहाँ पर no denial meaning the party is silent. For example, A ने बोला कि A wants to sue B for breach of contract, and A wrote in his plaint that A and B entered into a contract for sale of a particular property. Now in the WS, B does not deny. B कुछ भी नहीं करता. Now here what will happen? This contract, this existence of the contract will be a deemed admission under order 8 rule 5. हम मान लेंगे कि एक्चुअल में ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट था क्योंकि उसने डिनाई नहीं किया, उसे डिनाई करना चाहिए था. अब दिस इज समथिंग नोन एज डीम्ड एडमिशन. अब जब ऐसा केस आता है कि आप एक पार्टी असर्ट कर रहा है और दूसरा पार्टी डिनाई भी नहीं कर रहा और एक्सेप्ट भी नहीं कर रहा, सो इट विल बी अ केस ऑफ डीम्ड एडमिशन. और जब भी डीम्ड एडमिशन इन्वॉल्व हो तब आपको उस एस्पेक्ट का इशू फ्रेम नहीं करना, बिकॉज आप मान रहे हो कि इसने एडमिट कर लिया है. सो बोथ पार्टीज आर नॉट एट वेरिएंस. दोनों एक ही फुटिंग पे हैं, तो अब कोई डिस्प्यूट है नहीं. So in such cases there will then no issue will arise. It will be a case of deemed admission. Now things get a little tricky when the same is done with the same is done in cases of replication. अब देखो, for instance, plaint में आप सारे contentions अपने propositions raise करते हो. Now ideally law puts a duty upon the defendant to deny all of them if he does not wants to come under the ambit of deemed admission. अब फॉर इंस्टेंस WS में वो एक नया कोई स्पेसिफिक क्लेम लेके आता है, फाइन, एंड अब इसको रेप्लिकेशन आइडियली फाइल करनी चाहिए. आइडियली तो प्लेंट रेप्लिकेशन फाइल करता है, प्लेंटिफ रेप्लिकेशन फाइल करता है, बट इन दिस केस प्लेंटिफ डज नॉट फाइल एन रेप्लिकेशन. विल दिस अमाउंट टू डीम्ड एडमिशन? द आंसर टू दिस इज नो, because this rule of deemed admission is applicable to defendant and not plaintiff. अब ये क्यों? This was held in अनंत अनंत कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्सेस श्री राम निवास. उन्होंने बोला था कि जरूरी नहीं है कि रेप्लिकेशन में प्लेंटिफ हर चीज डिफेंडेंट की डिनाई करे. That is not needed because that will unnecessarily increase filing of more replications. फिर rejoinder file होगा और ऐसे the procedure will become endless. So the court said that see, अगर आपको रेप्लिकेशन फाइल करनी है तो आप दो चीजों में फाइल कर सकते हो. व्हेन यू आर एडमिटिंग अ पर्टिकुलर फैक्ट, तो जब आप एडमिट कर रहे हो तब आप फाइल कर सकते हो, और व्हेन यू वांट टू एक्सप्लेन अ पर्टिकुलर फैक्ट इन एन एक्सप्रेस मैनर, तो भी आप फाइल कर सकते हो. सो इन अनंतनाथ वर्सेस श्री राम निवास, the Delhi High Court held that although no specific or evasive denial in written statement may be taken as an admission of the plaint facts, failure to file a written statement would enable the court to pronounce the judgment against the defaulting defendant. However, plaintiff is not treated similarly. Every material averment made in the written statement is presumed to be denied by the plaintiff. तो जो भी चीजें WS में बोली गई हैं, तो ये मानी जाएगी कि सारी डिनाइड हैं. उस पर डीम्ड एडमिशन प्लेंटिफ पे नहीं लगेगा. एंड फॉर दैट पर्पस अब मियरली डिनायल के लिए आपको एक रेप्लिकेशन फाइल करने की जरूरत नहीं है. And for that purpose, he need not file a replication. And then the third aspect is step one was reading uh, the pleadings thoroughly. Step two was seeing whether the parties are in variance. And the step three is always keep in mind the burden of proof. कि burden of proof किस पर रहेगा एक issue proof करने के लिए, because ultimately you'll have to lead evidence. So ये हमेशा ध्यान में रखना कि कौन सा issue किसको proof करना है. अब for instance, अब कुछ examples हैं, there are few examples I want to give of ordinary issues, and these are these will change from case to case, but in most cases जब भी आप ऐसे similar cases देखते हो, ये issues रहते ही रहते हैं because of the nature of those cases. अब जैसे if a person is filing a suit of specific performance, so पहला issue रहेगा, अब specific performance में cause of action क्या है? Existence of a right, which is a contract, and then breach of contract. ये हो गया cause of action. Fine. तो आप कोशिश करते हो इशू में कि दोनों कॉज ऑफ एक्शन झलके, दोनों कॉज ऑफ एक्शन आपके इसमें इश्यूज में हो. बट अगर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट उसने एडमिट कर दिया है तो यू नीड नॉट पुट इट. सो पहला इशू रहेगा कि whether there has been a breach of contract by the defendant. Now for a suit of specific performance, now here what are you trying to do? You are trying to file a suit to specifically perform a particular contract. Now इसमें पहला चीज you will have to say that the reason you are filing the suit because he has breached the account, he has breached the contract. So the first issue will be whether there has been a breach of contract by the defendant, and the second aspect will be whether you are ready and willing to perform your part of the contract. and whether plaintiff is entitled to the specific performance. This is the last relief part. अब अब इसको समझो कि ऐसे केस में कॉज ऑफ एक्शन क्या होता है. अब ऐसे केस में कॉज ऑफ एक्शन है कि देयर इज अ ब्रीच ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, राइट? देयर इज अ ब्रीच ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, दैट इज द रीजन यू आर अप्रोचिंग द कोर्ट. नाउ what are you seeking from the court? You are seeking a specific performance. So specific performance is a particular issue, obviously, and obviously in most cases the opposite party will deny it. Specific performance आप seek कर रहे हो तो वो बोलेगा कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, he is not entitled to specific performance. So you will have to establish that you are entitled to this specific performance. So that is the reason it becomes an issue. And अब ये आ गया नई चीज, ये आ गया कि why I have to prove ready and willingness to perform the contract. अब this is something which is imperative upon you by specific relief act, and section 16C provides that कि जब भी आप सूट फाइल करोगे स्पेसिफिक परफॉर्मेंस का, you will have to prove, that you are ready and willing to perform your part. तो आप आपने अगर कभी स्पेसिफिक परफॉर्मेंस का सूट फाइल किया होगा तो आप हमेशा ये लिखते हो, एक कंटेंशन में लिखते हो कि द प्लेंटिफ इज रेडी एंड विलिंग टू परफॉर्म हिज पार्ट. एंड जैसे ही आप ये लिखते हो, डिफेंडेंट डिनाई करता है कि नो, द प्लेंटिफ इज नॉट रेडी एंड विलिंग टू परफॉर्म हिज पार्ट. सो दैट इज द रीजन यू frame this issue कि whether plaintiff is actually ready and willing to perform his part. Fine. This is specific performance. Now in the cases of, now हर केस में आपको ऐसा नहीं है कि यही इश्यूज रहेंगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर अगर डिफेंडेंट ने he disputes or he denies the existence of the contract itself, in that case the issue will be whether there exists any contract between plaintiff and defendant. Fine. एंड इसका बर्डन होगा प्लेंटिफ के ऊपर प्रूव करना, क्योंकि ही इज द वन हु इज फाइलिंग द सूट. तो ऑब्वियसली ही विल हैव टू प्रूव दैट देयर वाज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बिटवीन मी एंड हिम. बट ऑन द अदर हैंड, let's make the situation a little tricky. And on the other hand, अगर defendant deny करता है validity of the contract, defendant says that this contract entered between between plaintiff and defendant is invalid because it was entered on the grounds of undue influence or fraud, something like that. So here he is questioning the validity of the contract. So this also will be an issue. And the onus to prove this, now since he is contending this invalidity, so the onus to prove will be on the defendant. Fine. अब आते हैं suit for compensation in case of breach of contract. Now in case of you want to file a suit for compensation, there is a breach of contract. So cause of action again. Cause of action is the existence of a contract and then the breach of the same. Fine. ये cause of action है. अब अगर ये डिनाई कर रहा है, अगर डिफेंडेंट डिनाई कर रहा है existence of a contract, then obviously you will file the first you will frame the first issue whether there is a contract between plaintiff and defendant. Then the second limb of the cause of action, which says that whether there has been a breach by defendant. Now अगर breach हुआ है तो आपको क्या चाहिए? If there is a breach, then you want loss, you want compensation, but you will have to see that what sort of loss has been suffered. So the question will be whether the plaintiff has suffered substantial loss due to breach of this contract, and then you will see that whether he is entitled to get the compensation. अब ये जो substantial loss का जो issue आया, ये हमें इसलिए आया after reading section 73. It says that not all losses can be compensated. There are certain losses only which you have to compensate. So that is the reason you'll have to frame a separate issue ये establish करने के लिए कि whether plaintiff has suffered substantial loss, ताकि आप उस substantial loss का evidence lead कर सको. Fine. अब यहाँ पर onus देखते हैं, burden of proof किस किस पर है. So onus to prove the breach of contract is on the plaintiff क्योंकि he is the one who is filing the suit. तो breach तो उसे ही prove करनी है. अब substantial loss prove करने के लिए उसे general principles of contract को rely करना होगा in calculating the damages which are provided in section 73 and other cases also. अब आते हैं suit of declaration पे. This suit of declaration is filed under section 34 of Specific Relief Act. In this suit, you are declaring a legal right in favor of a particular person. legal character or a right as to property. There is a difference between legal character and right as to property. Legal character is a personal right. Personal right means कि whether A is filing a suit in the court for declaring that I am son of so and so. So वो declaration suit file कर रहा है कि मैं इसका बेटा हूँ. So this is a personal right. Right as to property is a proprietary right. Proprietary right में you are filing a suit for declaring that this property I am entitled to this property. This property belongs to me. I am entitled to this property. So एक सेक्शन 34 बोलता है कि you can file a declaration suit when when a person is entitled to a particular right. When you are entitled to a particular right and that right is denied from you. अब यहाँ पर cause of action कब arise होता है? On the denial. So you are entitled to this right and then there is a denial. So अब दोनों लिम का एक एक इशू बनेगा. So पहला इशू होगा whether the plaintiff is entitled to legal character or right as to property. And the second is whether defendant is denying or is interested to deny the legal character as to the suit property of the plaintiff. And the third will be whether plaintiff is entitled, and अगर ये दोनों prove हो गए तो declaration की बात आती है फिर, whether the plaintiff is entitled to declaration of the legal character or right as to property. ठीक है, this is when you are filing a suit of declaration. Now if you are filing, say if you are filing a suit of perpetual injunction, एक injunction जो indefinite period time के लिए चलते रहे. So in cases में you will have to refer to section 38. Section 38 says that you can file a suit of perpetual injunction when there is a breach of obligation. अगर कोई breach of obligation है तो आप suit of perpetual injunction file कर सकते हो. But वो obligation obviously defendant ने commit की होनी चाहिए. So the first issue is whether defendant is under an obligation. पहले तो क्या obligation exist करती है defendant के favor में. So दो चीजें हैं, पहले obligation होनी चाहिए और फिर उसका breach. पहले तो obligation क्या defendant कोई obligation के under है. And the second question is whether defendant has committed any breach of obligation. ठीक है. And then comes then the third question, which is the ultimate question, whether plaintiff is entitled to perpetual injunction to prevent the breach of obligation. Now then comes suit of perpetual injunction along with specific performance. इसमें अभी क्या होता है, अभी आप एक बंदा contract breach कर रहा है, continuing breach commit कर रहा है and you want to stop him, so you will file a suit of perpetual injunction. अब इसमें कैसे होता है कि first you will see whether this person has actually breached the obligation. First you will examine 38 कि actually उसने breach किया है. And अभी इसमें थोड़ा आप specific performance का section 16 का भी flavor डालोगे, whether you are ready and willing to perform the contract, and then whether the plaintiff is entitled to specific performance of the contract, and ultimately whether the plaintiff is entitled to perpetual injunction. ये बहुत important है. Whenever you are filing a suit for possession of an immovable property, so see, what does the cause of action arises when you're filing a suit for possession of immovable property? The first is that you were entitled to this property. पहले तो आप ये property से entitled थे and then you were dispossessed. You were entitled to this property and ultimately you were dispossessed from this property. Now this suit is filed under section 5 of Specific Relief Act. And abhi you will have to inculcate the cause of action in the issues. So the issue will be whether the plaintiff is entitled to the possession of immovable property, and whether the plaintiff is entitled to recover the possession of immovable property. And third, if mesne profit bhi isme important role play karega, because if a person has illegally removed anyone or dispossessed anyone, so the person who is actually dispossessed, he is entitled to the profits which were earned by that person while he was in possession of the property. वो property से जितने भी पैसे उसने कमाए, he is entitled. So that will also be a main issue, and that is the reason we will frame that whether the plaintiff is entitled to mesne issue for a term during which defendant remained in wrongful possession. Now here they have used the word, usually the courts use the word entitled. Now entitled का मतलब सिर्फ possessory title, सिर्फ ownership title नहीं है, rather it can be a possessory title, rather a person can be in a possession as an tenant, licensee, a Muslim widow, whose dower or meher has not been paid, वो जो right to retention रहता है Muslim widow के पास. So it can be used in exercise of those rights as well. जरूरी नहीं है कि आपका एक जो जो entitlement है वो सिर्फ ownership title हो. It can be a possessory title. कि किस टाइटल से आप किस राइट से आपको वो पोजीशन प्राप्त हुई. हाउ डिड यू अक्वायर दैट पोजीशन, फ्रॉम विच राइट. फॉर एग्जांपल अ लीज, एज अ लाइसेंस. ठीक है. देन कम्स suit of divorce on the ground of cruelty. Now this suit is filed under section 13(1) IA, sorry 1A है ना, 13(1) 1A of HMA. Ideally the issues in this case will be whether the respondent has treated the petitioner with cruelty. तो पहले तो आपको cruelty address करनी है. And दूसरा होगा, and this will be one of the most important issues, whether there is an element of reconciliation between the parties. Now why is this an issue? This is an issue because अगर reconciliation है, then the suit, uh, in that case the suit can be dismissed. So ये 23(2) में होता है कि क्या क्या एलिमेंट ऑफ रिकंसिलिएशन है. कोर्ट को डिसाइड करना पड़ता है कि क्या एलिमेंट ऑफ रिकंसिलिएशन है, तो वो 23(2) में डिसाइड करती है कोर्ट. सो कोर्ट फ्रेम्स अ सेपरेट इशू to answer whether there is an element of reconciliation, and if the answer is no, then the court proceeds with it. Whether the plaintiff is entitled to get divorce on the ground of cruelty, ये हो गया उसका relief claim. And then comes the question of omission of issues. What will happen if you omit, if the court omits a particular issue? See, ideally mere omission is not necessarily fatal to the suit. ऐसा नहीं कि omit हो गया तो suit ultimately mistrial declare हो जाएगा और suit vitiate हो जाएगा. It will be an irregularity. Now this irregularity can be material and immaterial both. It will be an irregularity and this irregularity may be material. अब in the cases it will be material जहां पर ये रूट्स को इफेक्ट कर रही है और मेरिट्स को इफेक्ट कर रही है केस के, तो उस केस में द अपेलेंट कोर्ट विल रिमांड टू द ट्रायल कोर्ट फॉर फ्रेश ट्रायल or to examine on this particular issue. On the other hand, where the parties went to trial with full knowledge that a particular point was at issue, they have not been prejudiced and substantial justice had been done. ये हो गया पहला केस जहां पर मटेरियल है, जहां पर मेरिट्स ऑफ द केस इफेक्टेड है. If the merits of the cases are getting affected, if the merits of the cases are getting affected, then the court can remand it to the trial court. On the other hand, if merits of the case are not getting affected, and parties know, all the parties know that okay, this issue was supposed to be framed, and parties are leading still, even though the issue is not framed, omitted है, फिर भी parties उसकी related evidences दे रहे हैं, and ultimately the court has decided on it. So it will not vitiate the proceedings because it has not affected the merits of the case. अब आते हैं improper issues. See, the similar thing applies to this thing. Improper framing of issues will not always result into an illegality. And illegality मतलब जब भी कोई illegality, कोई चीज को हम बोलते हैं कि this trial is an illegality or it vitiates, so you will start the entire thing from afresh. But here that is not the thing. जहां पर merits of the case have been affected, where the merits of the case have been affected, in those cases you will vitiate, or the court can remand for proper framing. The appellant court can remand. Appellant court can remand, वापस नीचे कोर्ट को भेज सकता है कि यार आप फिर से फ्रेम कीजिए issues. So in that case, it can vitiate and the appellant court can remand for reframing the issues. But if it does not affect the merits of the case, if the merits of the cases are not affected, then there won't be any remand and it will be a mere irregularity. Now, Rule 3 of Order 14 provides that, see, the court has the power to use such materials while framing the issues. So the court can, take allegations made on oath by the parties or by any person present on their behalf, or the court can take allegations on pleadings in answers to interrogatories. In answer to interrogatories also. अब ये order 11 में interrogatories होते हैं when the parties are questioning the other parties, and वो questions through courts pass किए जाते हैं and other parties answers the said question. So this section is saying that this rule is saying that you can use this answers to interrogatories delivered in the suit in framing the uh, in in framing the issues. And then comes contents of documents. Contents of documents can be produced. You can the court can also refers to the contents of documents which are produced by either party. And then comes the examination. अगर इन सब से भी कुछ नहीं होता, अगर प्लीडिंग भी सफिशिएंट नहीं है, अगर पार्टीज को ओथ पे एग्जामिन करते भी कुछ मिल नहीं रहा, so ultimately the court will call the parties and examine them in person, or court can also order production of document. So court can also examine and court can also order production of documents for framing of issues. So court adjourn करेगा उस वो एक date पे, and then court will call on the parties for examination. For instance, from the facts alleged in the WS, it is not clear whether the plea intended to be raised is one of fraud. अब WS में defendant ने कुछ facts mention किए हैं और उसमें plea raise की है of invalidity of the contract, कि contract illegal है. But you are not able to understand whether this plea is of fraud or coercion or undue influence or mistake. आप समझ ही नहीं पा रहे हो. So in that case, you will have to examine the parties to better understand what is actually contending. In such cases, it is the duty of the court to have the parties have the court examine the parties and clarify their position and settle the appropriate issues. Then comes amendment of issues and additional issues. Now court जब एक issue frame कर देता है, तो court can amend the issues in its discretion, and parties have no right and obligation, but the court has the discretion to either amend the issues, or the court can also frame an additional issues. But purpose ये होना चाहिए कि to determine the controversies between the parties. This should be the main purpose of that additional issue or the amended issue.
Questions about at the stage of when we first of all uh, basically deciding the issue between the both party, that is making the better core of the issue. And then when the score is finalized, and even a party which is anyway that is plenty for a defendant, anyone finds that certain issue is omitted and they want to readmit that into the proceedings, what should we do basically at
They
that
can file
question?
an application for amendment of the issues. They can file
Okay,
that application under Order 14, Rule 4.
okay, so it is admissible. That is, it is
Yeah.
not at that convenience, right?
No, it is admissible, but you'll have to establish now that this issue is can determine the controversy in the suit.
Okay. My second question is that both parties have put in a very facts and also a question of law. Court has actually found out which is a basic controversy, but again, a court has raised, just like you have said, additional points that are raised by court itself
Hmm.
to just come at the core of the situation. And if both parties agree that whatever issues that court has raised in this case are points that should not be taken into consideration, can the both parties be do, or a single party can do this? That is a plenty for a defendant.
I didn't understand, but see,
Uh,
if the issue is irrelevant and the court finds it later, the court can always strike it down.
okay. No, I'm saying court has found an additional, as we have discussed just now before last two
Yeah,
slides,
yeah.
that court can itself issue certain facts or some issues of law to
Hmm.
come at the core issue. And if both parties think that this issue should not be discussed or it is not relevant, or plenty of things that it's not relevant, or defendant thinks it's not relevant, can they raise an objection to the court that please this issue can be removed from this
Yeah,
proceeding?
they can raise an objection, but if it is if the court feels that this is just for doing the decision of the case, then the court will retain it. But they can always raise an objection, and if the issue becomes irrelevant or scandalous, then the court has to strike it down.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you
No
very much.
problem. No problem. So, what is the continuous cause of action if there is an evidence to say a defamation on an electronic communication recording of a meeting on Zoom, and the opposite party is not providing this recording to a party? Then, whom the burden of proof falls on to prove defamation? If the recording is deleted by the third party Zoom after 3 months according to their own laws, then how does the party prove defamation? Should the issue of law only out of pleading, and it can be raised by way of demurrers if the defendant raise a non-registration of plaintiff forms? With respect to the first question, see, the burden of proof anyways will be the person who is filing a suit. So if a person who is filing a defamation suit, the burden of proof will be him to prove that actually defamation actually occurred. Now, see, as far as the document is concerned, you can go for production of the electronic evidence, which is the recording of the Zoom. But if you need to have a duplicate to produce it in court. So if you don't have the duplicate, so you lack evidence, or you need some other evidences on to support your claim. With respect to second question, should issue of law arise only out of pleading, or it can be raised by way of demurrers if the defendant raises an issue of non-registration of the plaintiff firm? Ideally, it should arise out of pleading, but if admission and denials, bring about an issue of law, then yes, you can certainly frame that issue as of law. That is the reason we are conducting admissions and denials of the party at the first hearing. तो वैसे तो आप pleading को सब basis मानते हो, but admission and denials में अगर निकल आती है बात, तो always you can make it an issue of law. Is there always a requirement to move a notice of motion? Yes, in most cases. So what does it mean? Fresh trial in omission in fresh trial, amendment or addition of issues can be done. See, when I say fresh trial in omission, if the 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 issue which is so material for deciding the case is omitted, in that case you can always have a fresh trial, and in that fresh trial you will obviously add the issue which was omitted. And और ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि एक फॉर एग्जांपल एक सब्सिक्वेंट रिलीफ था, कोई दूसरा रिलीफ था, एंड कोर्ट ने उस रिलीफ के लिए इशू बनाना ही ओमिट कर दिया. देन यू गो एन अपील. व्हेन यू गो एन अपील, द अपेलेंट कोर्ट विल रिमांड द केस टू द ट्रायल कोर्ट टू फ्रेम द इशू ऑन दैट इशू अगेन. पूरा ट्रायल वापस नहीं होगा, सिर्फ उस इशू पर ही एक बार फिर से आपका इशू फ्रेम होगा और फिर से उसी इशू पर आर्ग्यूमेंट्स होंगे. Does the concept of burden of proof apply in the cases of issue of law? Yes, it does. It does apply in the issue of law. That is the reason in most cases the burden was on the defendant to prove the objection. Thank you for having me.